As we look forward to Advent, I am going to read the Greek, the Latin, and the Hebrew and endeavor to look at some of the grammar and talk about the meaning of this great text. It says in Greek, "Tu de Jesu genethentas in Bethlehem tes Judaias in Hemerais Herodu tu Basileos, Idumagai apa anatalon paragenanta es Jerusalema." Now we begin. Now the birth. Now Jesus, when he was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men came from the east unto Jerusalem. Notice here, as we begin this verse, we start off with a genitive absolute in tu de Jesu genethentas. Now, the birth of Jesus, basically, or after Joseph takes his wife to him, then we're now going to see the birth of Jesus. Notice, genethentas, as we said, is a genitive absolute, and looking at it, it's from the root genao, to beget or to give birth. It's an aorist passive participle, genitive singular, from genao. Now the birth of Jesus was in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king. Behold, wise men from the east came into Jerusalem. Notice the magoi, or the magos. These were people that were probably Babylonian priests who studied the stars, and no doubt there's a reference back to Numbers in the prophecy of Balaam concerning the advent of the Messiah. So at any rate, they then, probably being taught by the Lord, began to make their journey to the Holy Land. Notice they are from the rising, they came from the rising of the sun, or from the east, where the sun would arise, and they came then searching for the Lord. Notice here we have an aorist indicative active, third person plural, from paragenomai. So they came searching for the Lord. And then looking at the Latin, cum autem natus esset Jesus in Bethlehem, Judaeae in diebus Herodis regis, ecce magii ab oriente venerunt Jerusalemam. So again, the Latin agrees very closely with the Greek. Now the birth of Jesus was in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king. Behold, wise men came from the east to Jerusalem. Notice venerunt is your perfect indicative active, third person plural, from venere. And then looking at the Hebrew of this text, we're going to see, and I'm following Delitzsch on the Hebrew here. It reads, Vayehi b'mei hordos hamelech ka'asher nolad Yeshua bebeit lechem. That is, it came to pass in the days of Herod the king that as he was born, as Yeshua was born in the days of, in Bethlehem of Judea, Vayavo Menoshim Me'eretz Mizrach Yerushalayim. And the wise men came. Yavohu is from Bo. It's a cow, excuse me, imperfect, third masculine plural from Bo. So they came from the land of the east, or the rising of the sun, unto Jerusalem. And then we have verse 2, which then reads in the Greek, Legantes, pu estin ha tekthes basilus ton Judaion. Edamin gar autu tan astera ente anatale, kai elthamen praskunesai alto. So they came saying, notice legantes is a participle, a present active participle, nominative masculine plural from Lego. So they came saying, where is the one who is born King of the Jews? Notice tekthes here, where is the one who is born, is from tikto, to be born. And notice they're asking, this is an aorist passive participle, nominative masculine singular from tikto. So where is the one being born? King of the Jews. For we saw Edamen gar autu tan astera ente anatale. We saw his star in the east. Notice here, we saw Edamen is from harao. It's the aorist indicative active, first person plural. We have seen his star in the east, and we have come. Erthamen praskunesai auto. Erthamen, or Elthamen, is from erkamai, aorist indicative active, first person plural. We have come to worship him. Praskunesai is from praskuneo, aorist infinitive active. So we have come to worship him. And they want to bow down and prostrate before the king. The Latin reads, decantes, a participle, saying, ubi est qui natus est, where is he who is born? We have a perfect here, rex Judaiorum, King of the Jews. Vidamus enim stellam eus in oriente et venimus adorare eum. That is, we have seen, here we have, or we saw, here we have the past tense, the perfect. We have seen, or we saw his star in the east, and we have come, past tense, adorare, infinitive, to worship him. So again, the Latin is a very, Jerome's translation, very close to the Greek. Then we come to the Hebrew of this verse. Vayomer aye melech hayehudim. And they said, where is the king of the Jews? Asher yulad ki, that is, which has been born. Notice yulad here is a puel, third masculine singular from yalad, has been born. Ki ra'inu et, for we have seen kochavo ba mizrach, we have seen his star in the east. Notice ra'inu is from ra'ah. It's the cow perfect, first common plural from ra'ah. We have seen his star in the east. V'navo, and we have come lahishtahavot lo. we have come to worship him. Notice ve navo is from bo, to come. It's the cow imperfect first common plural from bo. We have come. Lehistachavod. Here we have the infinitive, the hitpael infinitive construct from shacha. We have come to worship. Notice, if you're looking at the Hebrew here of Dalich, hishtachavod. Notice we have what we call a metathesis, that is a change from hit shachavot to hish tachavot, and that happens in that type of a verbal form. So we have come to worship him. Again, we're looking at their desire to come and worship and bow down before the Lord. And that's what we should do today as we think about the Nativity, to come with the goal of worshiping Jesus. So we move on to the next verse, that is verse 3, and it reads, Akusas decha basilus Herodes etarakte kai pasa Yerasaluma met autu. And when Herod the king, or when the king Herod heard, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Notice akusas is from akuo. It is an aorist participle, nominative masculine singular from akuo. And I'm going to take it as a temporal participle. And when he heard, that is the king Herod, he was troubled. This is from tarasso. It is the aorist indicative passive third person singular from tarasso. He was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And then the Latin, audiens autem Herodes rex turbatus est. That is, and Herod hearing. Notice audiens is a participle, present participle. Herod, the king, hearing, he was troubled. We have the perfect here in turbatus est. And all et omnes Herasalima cum illo, and all Jerusalem with him. And so Herod is an extremely jealous, to say the least, king, and he is troubled by the news that there is one born who is king. And so he's very troubled, very jealous. And then we move on into the Hebrew. Vayehi keshmoa Herodos hamelech et divrehim. That is, and when it came to pass, as Herod heard. Notice kishmoa is from shama, and here we have an infinitive, a cow infinitive construct with the bait prefix. And when he heard, actually the print here is so small, it could be as he heard. But at any rate, it could be a cough. But as he heard, as Herod the king heard, divrehim, their words, v'yecharad hu, he was troubled. Here we have the cow imperfect third masculine singular from charad. He was troubled, the whole Yerushalayim imo, and all Jerusalem with him. So the Dalich translation follows again very closely the Greek. So then we go to verse 4. kai synagogon pantas tus archearus, kai grammates tu lau epunthanata par auton, puha Christos genatai. Notice, and in verse 4, when he had gathered together. Here we have an aorist participle with its temporal use from sunago, meaning to call together or gather together. So when he had gathered together, this is the aorist participle here, nominative, masculine, singular, from the root sunago, together, together. And so when he had gathered together, the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he was inquiring apunthanata par auton. Notice here in epunthanata, it's from punthanamai. We have the imperfect indicative active third person singular from punthanamai. He was inquiring from them, puha Christos genatai, where the Christ was being born. Here we have the present indicative passive from genao, where the Christ was being born. So he's asking, where is he being born? And the Latin reads et congregans omnes principes sacerdotum et scribas populi, that is, in gathering together, another participle in Latin, all the people, or all the chief priests, chiefs of the priests, we could say, and scribes of the people. He was asking them, Skiskitibator. He was inquiring ab eis ubi Christus nasceretur. And here we have an imperfect indicative passive. He was inquiring from them where the Christ would be born, or was to be born. Nasceretur, a passive here. And then the Hebrew of Dalich at this point, going into it, and it reads, Vayekal et kol Rashi HaKohanim, that is, when he gathered together all the heads of the priests, Usofrei Ha'am, and scribes of the people, Vayishal Otam Lemor Efo Yivaled HaMashiach. That is, he was asking, he asked them, notice Yeshol, or Yeshal, I should say, is from Sha'al. It's the cow imperfect, third masculine singular from Sha'al. He asked them, saying, Lemor, infinitive construct here, but we would translate it as saying, a cow infinitive construct, where, Eifo, Yivaled HaMashiach, where is the Messiah to be born? By the way, this is from the root Yalad, a Pevav root historically, and we have here a Nifal imperfect, third masculine singular from Yalad. So where is the Messiah to be born? And then they give the answer in the next verse. So notice in verse 5, Hoide penalto in Bethlehem, tes Judaias, hutos God gegraptai dia tu prophetu. They said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet. Gegraptai is your perfect indicative passive, third person singular from grapho. For thus it has been written through the prophet. And they're going to quote Micah 5, verse 1. And the Latin reads, At illi dixerunt ei, and they said to him, here we have the perfect indicative active, third person plural, from Decero. They said to him, in Bethlehem, Judaea, sic enim scriptum est per prophetum. For thus it is written, here we have the perfect, it has been written by the prophet. And now we're going to see Matthew showing the fulfillment of this by quoting Micah chapter 5, verse 1, as to where Jesus would be born in Bethlehem. Notice it reads, Kaisu Bethlehem ge Juda, udamos elakiste en tois hegemas in Juda, exugar exelucitai egumenas hostis poimane tan la mu tan Yisrael. And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, although you are least among the provinces of Judah, for out of you will come the one who is to be the governor, or the one that is the leader, who will shepherd my people Israel. Quoting from Micah chapter 5, verse 1. Notice here, as we go through the grammar just briefly, although you are not at all the least, elakiste is superlative from mikros, and it means, which means least in honor. Although you are not the least among the, notice here, a gemon would be the ruler or the leader. And a here is your present indicative active, second person singular from Ami. For out of you, and I'm just going to render this among the provinces of Judah, for out of you will come, exelucitai will come, hegumenos, the one who is to lead, or we could say the one who is to govern. Notice here the future. This is the future tense here, exelucitai, future indicative middle, third person singular, from exerkamai. A deponent, exerkamai would be deponent in use, will come, and notice, out of you will come the governor, or the one who governs. This is a participle. It's a from hegeamai, to lead. It's a present participle, the one who is leading himself, and I'm understanding it as a middle, a present participle middle, a nominative masculine singular from hegeamai, the one who is leading, who will shepherd. Hostis poimane tan la'anmu tan Yisrael. And notice the poimane is the future indicative active, third person singular from poimaino, who will shepherd or lead. And this is looking at the leadership of a king. This goes back really to ancient Near Eastern thought, even. A king is a shepherd. And so, who will shepherd my people Israel? And then reading the Latin, it reads, Et tu, Bethlehem, terra Judae, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, nequaquam minima es in principibus Judae. You are not indeed the least among the provinces of Judah, ex teinem ex et dux, for out of you will come the governor, or the one who is to govern. Here we have the future indicative active third person singular in the verb here. And then qui reget populum meam Israel, who will shepherd my people Israel. A future, who will shepherd my people Israel. So the Latin and the agrees very closely with the Greek. And then we come now to the Hebrew, looking at the Hebrew. Notice it reads, Va'ata Beit Lechem Eretz Yehuda, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, Einachad Sa'ir, although you are not least, but Alufei Yehuda, among the provinces or the thousands of Judah, or the provinces of Judah, Ki mimacha yetze Moshel, for out of you will come the Moshel, the leader. Notice yetze is the cow imperfect, third masculine singular from yatsa. Historically, it would have been a pei-vav verb, vatsa, where the vav has dropped out and we have compensatory lengthening under the yod. For from you will come the ruler, Asher Yireh et Ami Yisrael, who will shepherd my people Israel. And again, Yireh is from the verb ra'ah, to shepherd. It's the cow imperfect, third masculine singular from ra'ah. So, so going back then and just reading that verse 6, which is the fulfillment that Matthew is saying in the Greek, Kaisu Bethlehem ge Judah, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, Adamos elakistei en tois hegemasin Judah, exugar exilusatai hegumenas, hostes poimane tan la'anmu tan Yisrael. That is, although you are least among the provinces of Judah, although you are not least, for out of you will come the one who governs, who will shepherd my people Israel. And the Hebrew, a wonderful way that Delitzsch has rendered that. Va'ata Beit Lechem Eretz Yehuda, ein echad sa'ir be'alufei Yehuda, ki mimecha yetze Moshel asher yireh et Ami Yisrael. And what a beautiful passage that we look forward to the advent of Christ. And that will be not too distant from today, looking at the fact that he is indeed the eternal shepherd for all who put faith in him as Lord and Savior. And Matthew is driving that point home. But what impresses me is that the wise men, the Magi, wanted to come and worship him. That should be our passion. They came from a long distance to worship him. Where the scribes, they knew where Mashiach, where Christ was to be born, but they wouldn't even go a few miles to check it out. And it's interesting to me that the most important thing we can do is not only know about Christ, but love him and worship him and adore him. That is what the shepherds, or excuse me, that is what the magi teach us. And Matthew is also saying that these are Gentiles who are first coming, the magi. So one of Matthew's themes is that he's a Messiah for all people. So this is a beautiful text, and I'll continue working through the variant languages. I enjoy it personally, and will continue doing it. Thank you.